Initiated transmission.
The rise of electronic dance music has made the subculture go mainstream. More and more people are going to festivals and are experimenting with drugs. However, these people are uninformed, which can cause them to make bad decisions. Misinformed people are more likely to overdose. Recently, at the Electric Zoo Music Festival in New York, 2 people died from overdose. Since we know drug abstinence is obviously failing, a better alternative is allowing harm reduction groups at raves and festivals. Currently, however, harm reduction groups aren't allowed to be at most of these functions because they are wrongfully tied with drug advocacy.
I am the chapter head of the Bay Area Dance Safe chapter. I've been involved in the rave scene or the nightlife scene for about 8 or 9 years.
We're doing this documentary on harm reduction. Do you have any idea what that is?
I don't.
I think the real question is, do you know what harm reduction is?
Mm-mm.
Do you know what harm reduction is?
No, I guess not.
What Dance Safe is we're a harm reduction nonprofit focused on the nightlife community. So we set up booths generally at festivals, raves, clubs, and have information on hearing protection, safe sex, as well as drugs. We also offer condoms as well as earplugs to people. And when possible, we do pill testing or reagent testing, where we can try to do a field test to assess what substances someone's like drugs may have. Uh, 50% these days of stuff that they think is Molly, which again people think is MDMA for the most part, is not MDMA, but is instead something like methadone, mephedrone, occasionally methamphetamines, sometimes some piperazines like TFMPP or BZP, or it's something that we can't actually identify, which usually means it's some combination of drugs. Where all drugs are decriminalized, they have government-run pill testing stations where you can get any drugs tested and see what they are. And in general, they found that this has led to a much safer event. The people that are most resistant to reagent testing are always the venue owners, because they have the most vested in the event. The fact that they own a nightclub generally means that they have some sort of interest in nightlife events, and a lot of times they personally are receptive to what we do, but are afraid of the financial or legal repercussions they might face if they do it.
My nose was hurting really bad, and I just couldn't do anymore, but I didn't want to stop, so I started parachuting things, which is like taking, splitting a piece of toilet paper in 2 squares and then pouring whatever's like crushed up pill or whatever's like on the inside of a capsule, and then twisting it and pulling the top off, and then I would spit out my tongue and then take a drink with that, and then I was also pouring like powder into a glass of water and like chugging water, just doing a bunch of pills. I think I was doing Percocets and Klonopin and knockoff Xanax, and then I think like maybe a little bit of Dilaudid, which is really dangerous because opiates and benzos, I mean, that's a pretty fast way to OD, and that's exactly what happened.
I think that anyone that's been around drug use has probably at some point seen people make unwise decisions, which results in them having consequences they regret. They're taking drugs that they thought were usually MDMA and were something else entirely, and ended up having, you know, a much less pleasant time than they wanted to. And, you know, if they had had testing available to them, they probably wouldn't have taken them. So I've definitely seen that.
And would you think that'd be a good idea to have at raves and festivals?
Yeah, absolutely.
I definitely think that information, that would be amazing. I think that every rave they should have that because people are doing drugs.
Harm reduction, I think it's actually going to be a really good thing to have at events like that, just so that people know what they're taking in. I actually have a couple of friends who just kind of got some, you know, pills or whatever that you're going to take, and I asked him how it was, and he was like, dude, I haven't slept in 3 days. I was like, why? I just took a bad pill. And so if having some people like harm reduction around in a rave or wherever they're going to be at an event, if it's going to help people stay away from stuff like that, experiences like that, I think it sounds good to me.
So I think that would be great, you know, especially for people that never done it before and were thinking about it but were scared and didn't trust the opinions of those around them because of peer pressure or whatever. If there was someone there strictly to give information and say, there are good and bad things about this, there are risks, these are the risks, this is what physically happens to you, this is what's going to happen tomorrow if you take it tonight, you know, like just really well-rounded information about it. That would be fantastic. I think that's definitely a positive thing.
And I know that, you know, people like Insomniac have said that they've tried to have harm reduction communities and they wouldn't allow it. The police wouldn't allow it, for instance.
Clearly, drug abstinence is failing to stop people from doing drugs. It is evident that harm reduction programs like Dance Safe are a necessity at raves and festivals. People want to be informed about the substances they choose to intake, and society needs to change its views so harm reduction groups aren't seen as drug advocacy, but more as a safety precaution.